Good morning, good evening, everybody around the world, and welcome to the latest North Moth webinar. This week we're joined by Tom Burton and Giovanni Galeotti. Tom's going to be talking to us about training tips and actually, how to train yourself and your body for moth sailing. We're going to focus there on foil tacking. And Giovanni's going to introduce to us his new Barbarossa Windflyer, which is the latest moth to sort of hit the marketplace. So moving on, welcome Tom Burton. Thanks for joining us. As I sort of said, we want to talk to you about training, and I've seen you sort of come through up the ranks of the moth fleet to third at the World Championship in 2019. Obviously, your pedigree's immense, and in my mind, you've progressed up quickly. Your boat handling is second to none, and that's certainly how you certainly make a lot of places with very good boat handling. So laser gold medalist in Rio 2016. Tell us a bit about how you train, and start with the laser a little bit. Tell us about how you train in that, and how you use that in the moth.
Yeah, thanks, Rob. Yeah, training's a tricky one because for sailing, it's one of those things that, for some boats you don't need to train that much, and for other boats, training is like a massive advantage. So for me, just generally, since I've been quite young, like I've always enjoyed training and doing fitness. So it's not really like I don't really see it as a chore or anything like that. Like it's something that I enjoy doing, and the fact that it helps my sailing is a bonus. So they both feed into each other. Just to touch on like the specifics of it, to get everyone home, it's just I kind of put it into, there's kind of two categories. There's fitness for fun, and then there's kind of fitness for the specific need for your sailing. So I often see, and even in the professional, the laser circuit, you see, I used to have a bit of a saying that, the guy that's ripped and shredded walking around the boat park with his shirt off. I know you're pretty ripped and shredded, Rob, but often they're not the fittest for sailing, especially in the laser class, because they spend all their time doing muscles that aren't even relevant to the boat. So as much as they look awesome and fit, they're nowhere in the breeze or anything like that. So we kind of called it the law of looks. Like the better you look, the worse you are, because you're not spending your time efficiently. And kind of that's the same in terms of some kinds of fitness. So I kind of, in the laser class, like running, I don't see that much benefit, but and there's some other kind of activities as well that don't give you as much bang for your buck as some others. But if you I generally look at fitness as, the first thing is you need to transform your body. So if you're not big enough, I'd spend more time in the gym to put some weight on to get big enough. And if you're too big, you got to spend less time in the gym, more time doing some cardio to kind of get like smaller or lose some weight. So that's, I think, the first key thing, especially in the laser, seeming that the weight range is way narrower than the moth. The moth's pretty specific, that you can be probably 20 kilos different and be racing up the beat, going close to the same speed. So that's pretty weird to have that in a class of boat. And then just talking about the guys that do fitness or not, like I remember in my Olympic campaign, if I did 20 to 25 hours a week, it includes sailing, but of sailing and fitness, after multiple weeks, I'd start to get sick. So maybe 2 or 3 weeks, I'd get a cold or the flu or whatever, just because you're just so drained and that sort of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So 25 hours a week, sort of 50-50 training on the water and training in the gym or running or whatever it may be.
Yeah, sometimes it's quite easy. It's much more easy to build up hours sailing, even though because when you go sailing, it's generally for 2 or 3 hours, whereas in the gym might be an hour, or cycling or running might be 30 minutes or an hour or whatever. So it was probably 60-40 or 70-30 sailing, just to end those hours building up. but they can be windy and they pretty hard as well.
Sure. And so when you're on the water in your laser, what sort of training did you do? Were you obviously there's some boat speed tuning, but what sort of drills did you do and how did you drill yourself?
Yeah, like it as well, like the weather comes into it. I think the biggest thing with sailing and it's kind of hard as well to incorporate into fitness is one thing that you see fitness and if you take it to the extreme with like bodybuilders or fitness models or whatever, like one thing they have is structure. They do, have a set plan and do that, rigorously with their fitness and their nutrition. Whereas with sailing, it's very difficult because you're based on you've got to deal with the wind. So you might want a hard workout, but there might be no wind. So that's one thing that you've got to juggle every day. And you might, it might be really windy, but you might be knackered. So you still want to go sailing, but your performance is really going to suffer. So you just got to juggle all that. So if it was really windy and I was tired, we might do more starts. So you do more boat handling. It's less taxing on the body, but you're still finding some things that you can do. And the same thing like with light winds. If it's light and you're fresh as, you might just go and do heaps of tack. So you're always like exploding across the boat and you're not just kind of sitting there doing a start with your sail flapping and mucking around a little bit. So yeah, you really got to tailor it to how you feel on the day and what you want to get out of it.
Yeah, and as you say, I guess that's very true for the Moth, making sure your training is good for the day you've got and the weather conditions you've got so that you're not wasting your day. So just taking it on to the Moth then, when as everyone starts in the Moth and you jump in the boat day one, you're like, Jesus, this is near impossible. And then you've got to sort of basically take yourself from a beginner Moth sailor to one of the best in the world. Tell us about your training in the Moth, how you went about it, and how you got yourself good and got yourself as one of the best boat handlers in the Moth today.
Yeah, well, I forget the very first year I had a Moth, but I wasn't very good, and I think that the biggest thing that has helped me is learning more about the Moth. So talking to more people, understanding how the boat works, understanding what controls do the most to the boat, help you the most, and what controls you barely need to touch. There's so many strings on the boat that you kind of are a bit confused, especially from a laser sailor. You're like, it's a bit confusing of what you actually need to touch and what is just there just to maybe touch once a day or whatever. But basically I did the Sorrento Worlds and had not much training. And then I'd sold my boat again after that and basically got another one just after Rio and tried to go for the Garda Worlds, which I was going okay, but didn't have the best equipment. But basically just learning more about the setup of the boat really helped me, and just talking to people that have much more experience, aka Moth sailors, in terms of like how much bang, when do you ease it, when you're pulling your wand up and all that sort of thing, just to have an understanding of, because I found it's a very difficult boat to sail, even do boat handling in the easiest conditions if the boat's not set up nearly 90% or better. If you've got your boat just struggling around you, it's very difficult to even get your body in the right position on the boat. So that's one thing that I think in the last kind of 2 years I've increased dramatically, is my knowledge of what I'm actually trying to do with this boat, and then the boat handling's become much easier. It obviously as well, just spending more time doing boat handling.
Yeah, so understanding all the, I guess, all the additional equipment on a Moth compared to a laser, which I should say is the wand, the gearing, how all of that interfaces with everything that's going on, just so you can get your head around then actually doing the boat handling side of things. And so when you were new in it, what did you do? You just went out sailing and did hours of capsizing and learning to tack and learning to jibe? I mean, how did you go about it all?
Yeah, in hindsight, well, that's all I did. But in hindsight, I was probably sailing around with the boat set up at 60%. Whereas now, and why I kind of correlate it to setup and tacking is that if you're not set up correctly, it's much more difficult, obviously. But you're not sure, did I just stuff this tack up because I did something wrong, or was it because the boat was set up wrong? And that's, I think, a critical thing in everyone's tacking, is that, is the mistake theirs, or is it the preparation into the tack which is the mistake? And that's two, in my mind, it's two massive differences.
Yeah, got you. So now we're, thanks for all that, Tom. And now I think what we'd like to talk about is foil tacking. Certainly something you're very good at, and it's certainly something that plays a massive factor in everyone's race. And I think people, if people can happily foil tack, you generally say that you can be in the top 10 around the Winflyer mark and get some very good results. So it's the holy grail of moth sailing. And having spoken to you a little bit before this, we've sort of broken it down into a few points. The entry of a tack, the actual tack, and then the exit of it. And hoping that you can sort of talk us through your key focuses, your key priorities in the whole maneuver. And why don't we just start with the entry of the tack? I know my tacks, when you're ripping along at sort of, high teens or 20 knots upwind, and then you want to go into tack, it's that whole setup process and making sure you're not too wobbly going into it is key to it all. Why don't you just talk us through, Tom, what goes on in your head?
Yeah, well, just thinking about tacks as well, I kind of, and most, I don't know if people do or not, but most people, when even in laser coaching or moth trying to explain it, or any other boat really, I kind of break it down into two parts of the tack. So there's basically from close haul to head to wind, and then head to wind down to close hauled again. So I think of it in my mind as basically two parts, and if you're describing it like you're talking about the first part, which might be close haul to head to wind, and then the second part, and there could be two different outcomes. And if you make a mistake, it could be you might have done one half of the action correctly, but one half wasn't done correctly, and then that's what's ended up in a bad tack. So the reason I had focus there is basically from close haul course to head to wind, I think you need to be pretty focused in keeping the angle of the heel correct, and the speed of the boat pretty up there in your whole setup time. And that's why you got to focus on that, because if you get lazy there, basically it's all downhill from there, and it's going to be very difficult to save the tack if you lose focus there and end up with too much windward heel or the boat too flat.
And just backing it up from that a little bit, so you're ripping along and you decide, right, I want to tack. What's the sort of first sort of things you're doing?
Well, basically the very first thing, and I want to just double check that I've done it, and I think I had it there in one of the other notes, is basically the main sheet. And you can see here, Chewy hasn't actually done it, but I'm very paranoid about having the boat set up to make it as easy as possible for myself. So I've got a main sheet take up, so it's taking up the end of the tail. One of the first things that I noticed when I jumped on a moth when I was a beginner is that you're going so fast, the main sheet just flies out the back of the boat often. And you can see here, it's between his legs, which is not the worst thing, but if you've ever got it going across your body and out the back of the boat, as you go to cross the boat, you're running over it, so you're tangling yourself in it. And then on the second part of the tack, the most crucial thing is to have the main sheet eased, to ease the main sheet. So if you've just run over the top of it, now it's tangled around your legs, you're not going to be able to ease on the exit of the tack. So you might do the first part of the tack correctly, but then you've all of a sudden just stuck and you can't ease the main sheet. So I'll have a take up that goes basically to the bridle. So the tail of the main sheet is like sucked away onto that. And then the whole of my main sheet, as soon as I get out of attack, the main sheet is to like in front of my leg. So basically I don't have to think about my main sheet. I can just roll straight into attack whenever I want and know that I'll be able to ease main sheet because I'm not going to run over it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I know main sheet does get twisted around everything. As you're saying, you're ripping along, it's flailing around, and you certainly got to get it all ready. Tell me, what are you doing? Your van, your Cunningham, any other adjustments you're making to anything before you go into the tack?
No, the only thing that, and I've heard a few other people say it, and that's why I kind of started to try and do it. But when it's super windy, and you need to know, like you need to do a tack that's not gonna, in training, it's kind of different tacking to racing. I kind of find as well is that in training when you're tacking, you don't really care if you bin it, or drive into a big capsize or whatever. But racing, you do care, or you care much more. So I found if basically when it's windy, I'll and super like quite windy, like 20 plus, ease a little bit of vang, just to help get under the boom a little bit easier, and just make the rig more forgiving on the edges of the tack, and it kind of stops the kind of the boom not wanting to come over, because as we're running sloppy rigs, where the I don't know if everyone's probably noticed that as they crank their vang on super tight on the beach, the boom doesn't want to stay centerline. It either wants to kind of pull out one way or the other, whichever way the rig's kind of fallen. And it just makes it a little bit more difficult tacking if it's cranked on and super windy.
Okay, and what about your rudder? Any twists on the rudder pre-tack or doing anything there?
Not often. I have heard that, go a little bow up. The one thing that I kind of always tried to do was just kind of move backwards in the boat. So either go from my hiking position across and towards the back of the boat to stop the bow driving in. I think as well, it really depends on the angular heel of your boat. So that's one thing that I had in the notes, that you got to be super good at debriefing this yourself and trying to figure out why you've just made this mistake. And so then on the next tack, you can try and fix it and not have to wait until you come in and see some footage of yourself to try and figure it out sometimes. That you need to figure out, okay, I had too much heel there. When I turned, the back of the boat came up, the nose went in. So you wanted to either put less heel on the boat, or you got to move your body weight further back to try and get the nose up. So yeah, in my notes as well, just had how to fix a failing tack. So to pick up little, after repetition, you might know exactly the heel that you need to go into a perfect tack, but then you can pick up really quickly when you're going into a tack, oh, this is too much heel, so I need to either be quicker with my body, move my weight back, or whatever. Or you might know that, okay, I'm too flat, but you might have already committed to the tack. So it's not often that you can just hit every tack at the perfect angle. You need to be able to adapt with your body to make up for the differences every tack, which is the key.
Okay, so anyway, we've got ourselves set up for attack. Our main sheet's all sorted. We've maybe eased a little bit of vang. Tell us next what's going on in your head. Do you keep the boat at max speed? Do you try to slow it down a little bit? Obviously a little bit wind speed dependent, but what are you trying to do for your, we're ready, the main sheet's ready, you're now about to go into the tack?
I think you want to keep the boat as quick as you can, but the thing is, you obviously need to get your body from outside the boat to inside the boat. So, which is what Matt just did there. So, and that might generally be, you got to stop hiking. So you might have to either ease some sheet to depower the sail or steer up a little bit. So it might be, or a combination of the both. So it might be like 1-2 degrees steer up and a little ease on the main sheet, just to be able to bring your body weight in. The next thing would be to,
just deloading the boat a little bit with a little luff up. What sort of heel angle are you looking for at this stage then on the boat, as you're turning up towards the wind, I guess?
Yeah, for me, it's nothing like it needs to be set in stone, because it's so difficult out on the racetrack. I'd basically practice tacking it at all different angles. I think if it's heeled more, it's going to be a quick attack. I'm going to have to race through the boat way quicker. One thing that I don't know if he's listening, Slingo mentioned it in Perth, and it's one of these things you don't actually pick it up until someone's mentioned it. But he said that if you try and start your tack when you're overheeled, you got too much heel to windward, it's very difficult to get it back flat before you tack. And then the more I kind of focused on that, the more I thought that was exactly right. If you always heeled way too far to windward and you try and tack, it's very difficult to try and flatten it back. It often ends in the nose digging straight into the water as you turn. So as long as you kind of know where that edge is, and you don't want to be overheeled, I think anywhere from there, within, I don't know what degrees it would be, but Chewy's boat here looks pretty ideal. But it's not kind of crazy that it needs to be important, I think, like to a 1 degree.
Yeah. Okay. So we've got a slight weather heel coming into the boat, and then obviously you're leading the tack with a foot, generally the back foot. What do you know? I mean, it's sometimes very hard to know exactly how you tack without looking at video. But do you have like a process scripted in your head, and where you're going with the tiller extension and that sort of thing?
I want to make sure that my back foot's in the middle of the boat, which is what Matt's done here, obviously. But sometimes if you don't get that big step in initially, and you might leave it a bit more to windward, as you go on and deload the boat, it tips it over more to windward, which then can just make that problem of driving the bow in even more. So I think the biggest thing is that getting that initial step in all the way into the middle of the boat, and then so you can jump through. So it keeps the boat, so as it's going through the middle, all the weight's kind of just centralized above the foils.
And then when obviously the tiller extension through, as you're moving into the boat, and then there's the big turn. And just tell us, how much, how aggressively you're steering, and when, and how to know how much to turn, I guess.
It's a very difficult thing, because the shock cord on the tiller, I think everyone has that, how tight that is a little different. And people use 6 mil, some people use 4 mil, some people use 4 mil that's wrapped twice. So all the sensations on the rudder would be quite different, and depending on how tight that is would depend on how hard you got to pull it. Because if it's 6 mil super tight, you might actually have to pull it quite hard to just get it to move a little bit. But basically, I found as soon as you're through the boat and you're pretty happy that you're not going to get flung off, I'd be ripping it pretty hard, as long as it's not, especially in the light wind, I'd be ripping it pretty hard just to get through. And then basically getting your feet under the hiking straps and trying to switch over hands, because the next most important thing is to be able to ease sheet and keep going.
Yeah, so in the middle of that maneuver, it's about moving fast. I know it all happens in a split second, and it's pretty hard to say what you do, but really it's one fast maneuver. You're through the boat and out on the other side.
Yeah, I'd probably tack very similar to Matt here. Like, I've seen people like Nathan Outeridge do and even Slingo do a little hoppy jump and land on your knees. I'm not a huge fan of that. I know I'm going to get ripped to shreds by them, but yeah, I'm more wanting to just kind of slide across the boat and get my ass on the side of the boat really quickly, rather than end up on my knees or anything like that. So I'd be very similar to Matt here, where you basically just kind of, as you're going out onto the new wing, you spin and get your ass out on the side of the boat. Yeah.
I mean, would you say it's different to a laser? What you're actually doing through the boat, very different?
Not crazy. Like, obviously a little bit. It's a totally different boat. You're flying, and everything needs to be done a little bit quicker, but not like my technique. I don't think is that different. Obviously, that's why I've kind of brought it across. I know the guys that jump and kind of land on the knees. I think that's a totally different technique and basically specific for the moth. But one thing that would be different is that often in the moth you can drop the tiller extension. When you have a bit on, you can kind of just rest it there, and it's not going to go anywhere. Your boat's still going to sail straight. Ideally, it's not the best thing, but it is doable. And does Matt do it there? He probably doesn't. But often, often people do.
Yeah. So we've got set up. We've come through the tack, and then you're coming out the tack here. Here's Chewy, tiller extension behind the back. Main sheet, as you said before, being able to ease the main sheet a huge amount.
Yeah.
So just talk us through this period. That's the key, is it? Being able to ease that main sheet.
Yeah, so often, if you get caught too high because you can't ease the main sheet, you're basically going to just kill all your speed and drop off the foils, or you're going to not be able to bear away because you can't ease and you'll just get blown over. So that having that prepared and not being tangled pre-tack is a massive key. And I think you might have dropped it there, but basically getting your body weight out and getting the bow down, and the rudder becomes probably like once you've picked your angle, the rudder becomes not really that important, and all the most important things is your body weight and the sail trim.
Yeah, and so we want that main sheet ease so we can come out the tack very wide essentially, and just to keep the boat on the foil where the boat's turning through 120 degrees in the tack probably, and then just so you can get the thing hooked up on the foil quickly, main sheet ease to get the flow on it.
Yeah, well, I think as well that one of the biggest priorities is getting new windward heel. So at the moment, it's you've just crossed the boat, you're still struggling to get your feet under the toe straps. You need to be able to, so you can't hike yet. You need to be able to get windward heel to get the boat speed to keep going. So I think the biggest thing is to have the main sheet eased to be able to induce the windward heel is a key thing as well.
Yep, and now we can see here Chewy just doing his transfer of hands behind his back. And then, that's, I think, quite an important moment, isn't it? Getting back in control. Yeah.
So he dropped it there, but yeah. So I think for me, sometimes I drop it and sometimes I don't. I think it really depends on how good I've prepared and how kind of well the tack's gone. I think if I've done a nice boiling tack and can change hands, that's a really good tack. I think if I've had to drop it, it's probably something's gone wrong, but it's not a major through the tack. But yeah, as I said, it's not the rudder becomes not that important once you've got your angle there. So it's pretty nice that you can actually drop it.
Yeah, got you. So what I like to do is just sort of play this again, and we'll just go start to finish and sort of talk about the key points. So start of the tack, get your main sheet set up.
Yeah, set up. You got to bring your body weight in. Next thing is you got to hit the middle of the boat with your body weight as you're crossing and as you get through. And obviously, like now he's got all his main sheets free to just be able to ease. You can see how wide he is. Swap hands, get hiking again, and then you can start to trim back on.
Yeah, got you. And then after the tack, you're in your straps, you're ripping along. Any other changes, or literally you haven't, ideal world, you haven't adjusted too many controls? Rudder, van?
No, I wouldn't. The only thing that I'd check is that I haven't wound my rudder down through the tack. Obviously, as you go to flick it through the back of the boat, if you just do 10 tacks in a row without any changes, you'll inevitably have wound your rudder probably down, giving you less rudder lift. I always find. So after a tack, I'd often as well just make sure that I've got the right amount of rudder lift.
Got you. Okay, let's just thanks for that, TB. You talked a bit about fixing tacks and too much heel or too slow going tacks. So if you're going to attack with too much heel on, too much windward heel, what do you do? I see it a lot. People go into the tack, they're too heel to windward, and essentially you can never turn. You end up just kind of bow down crashing. What's the fix there? Classically what happens in moths are people are coming up for attack and they're like, before they've even got off the side of the boat, they're like, this is going to go wrong. And you see them delaying and then you're like, yeah, it's definitely going to go wrong. And sure enough, it goes wrong. And sometimes it's too much heel to windward. And it's hard to get that heel off, it's hard to get rid of the heel. And how do you fix these problems?
Yeah, well, I think some tacks, you've got to know that, that's basically a tack that's going to end in disaster. I think once you know that a tack's going to be completely bad, I think you've got to know what your worst case is and your best case is. So worst case would be to drive it into windward, stay on the windward side, basically capsize, and then have to get it back up on the same tack and you haven't even tacked yet, right? Next best case might be to at least try and get through the tack and have capsize. So when you can get it up, you might be on port. And then the next best thing, well, a pretty good outcome would be to at least get through the tack and not have capsized. You might be off the foils, but you can pop up. You might lose, compared to someone doing a foil tack, you might lose 50 meters or whatever. So I think for me, I've done plenty of tacks like that. I think the biggest thing and where I've progressed with getting better results is you know how to do the third one. You know how to get through the tack without capsizing and not being basically stopped. So one thing that I do there is just keep steering straight. And the biggest thing is you need to get rid of the heel. So basically crossing the boat, you're tacking the boat as you're going in a straight line. I'd basically be on the new leeward side. And then as soon as the boat starts to get flat again, you just rip it into a tack. And you might, it's not going to be a foiling tack, but you're going to attack the boat, and you're not going to be capsized.
You're going to be pointing in the right direction upright. Yeah, and
even if you don't do a foiling tack, you might only lose 20, 30 meters, which is, in the scheme of things, not it's not that bad.
Yeah, for sure. The I think what is key, and you've touched on it, is knowing every tack's different and knowing what the subtle changes mid-tack to get it back on track, because they all just go a little bit differently, and it's about getting them just back on track midway through a tack. And I guess, as you sort of said, it's having done enough of it to know what to do midway through the tack to bring it right if she's going a bit wrong. All right, let's just touch a bit more on your training then in the Moth. Tacking training, I mean, this is key. If you can nail your 3 or 2 or 3 tacks per beat foiling, you're going to be in the top few boats. What's how often are you out there practicing your tacking and getting it sweet?
Oh, I haven't been out for a while. I've just, but basically, when you go moth sailing, the key thing is to be practicing your tacking. Obviously, straight line speed is a key thing as well. But tacking's often where it's at. Like, even if you had Slingo like speed at the Worlds, if he binned some tacks, he wouldn't have won every race. So that's the biggest thing. And I've got there as well, like fatigue tacks. I think before Perth, that was something that I was practicing, is that I could go out and basically tack around and do every tack foiling. But then as soon as you start to add racing in, you start to hike much harder than you do if you're just out training. So, and then all of a sudden the extra emphasis of don't want to crash this tack because I'm racing and I'm fatigued. So I'm a little slower through the boat. You might not feel tired, but you just naturally don't get through the boat and you're not as crisp as if you just sail around not hiking all day. So that was something that I was definitely practicing, is that, we'd maybe do some straight line speed lineups for 3-4 minutes. And even if someone and we wanted to stop and line up again, I'd make sure that I'd try and do a tack so I could get that tack in as like a fatigued hiking tack.
And it is hard to train. Tacking during racing and tacking during training are different, as you've said. And you may go out, I've done it, you're tacking and training, you're like, I'm tacking pretty well. And then that first tack out the start line is a complete horror show. How, is that pressure? Is it nerves? What is it? How do you make sure your race tacking is as good as your training?
Yeah, it's difficult. Like, as I said before, I have, it's a pretty hard mentality, because in training, when you're tacking, you just try and go for it and you don't actually care about the outcome that much. Whereas in racing, you do. So you start to hesitate. So you're like, I don't want to bin this tack. So you might set up a little bit slower. You might wait a little bit longer. And all that changes the heel of your boat, because you're just waiting that couple extra seconds that you might not normally. So I remember, I think I went and did a race with the guy like Scott and Slinger down at Balmoral, and basically just went out with them and then straight into racing tack. I just binned every tack, just in the little warm up. So, and then as you just got to get your head around that, you just got to try and not think about it too much, because if you can do it, it's like riding a bike. If you can foil tack, you should be able to do it the same in training as in racing. So I think a key for me is that don't think about it too much and just do the process of what I know I can do. and that's just
Yeah.
you know, turn the boat and cross the boat.
Yeah, and then obviously managing the fatigue a little bit and making sure that you can still do it. You know, your technique changes, I guess, a little bit when you are more tired, and you've got a safe attack, presumably. You sort of touched on, you debrief your tacks. How do you do that? What do? You talk to yourself, do you, or you've got to?
Well, I'm a single-handed sailor, but yeah, I think you just need to know, and you need to, like I said before, if your boat's not optimally set up, you need to, you know, you don't want to be blaming your boat all the time, but you need to know, was it my fault? Was it the boat's fault? Whose fault was it? Where was the error made? I think even a tack that goes, you know, completely wrong and you end up in fully capsized, there's the starting point of the critical moment where it started to go wrong. And, you know, you might have, even if you did, you know, you got through that bit, you might have then done something else wrong after that. But I think you need to find the first critical moment where it all went wrong, and then fix that for the next time and get past that hurdle. It's like playing a video game. Like, you get through the next checkpoint, until you kind of ticked it all off. You've done a good tack, and then you can feel what all those things felt like. And then, you know, every time you make a mistake, you know, which mistakes you can recover from and which ones are just, you know, you basically need to alter your tack or change or just kind of bail out of it, keep going and try again.
Yeah, and I presume then it's understanding what went wrong in the tack so you can then fix it, rather than a tack going wrong and you're like, well, what the hell went wrong? I don't know. Yeah,
well, that's the key thing. I think if you end up going, what the hell will happen there? It's not a very good place to be, because you can't change anything. I think the biggest thing would be, you know, for me, it would be going to a tack and be like, okay, that tack I had too much windward heel. I want to be flatter, or I went through the boat too fast, or I didn't go through the boat fast enough. Those would be the kind of few key things that I'd be looking forward to debrief to. Then just the next tack could be 2 minutes later to try and fix.
Awesome. Tom, thank you very much. We've used up plenty of your time. There's some really useful stuff there, which I'm sure people can go back, listen to, you know, work with their coaches on, and then try to get a bit better. Thanks for joining us. We'll move on, guys. Actually, I'll skip that and move on. Giovanni, you're patiently waiting here. Thank you for coming. You've been in the Moth class now for a long time, and always been a bit of a development guy. And so talk us through this new boat of yours, the Barbarossa Windflyer.
Thanks, Rob. I've been enjoying the talk about tacking. It was all very, very interesting. Yeah, we basically decided it would be a fun idea to do a new moth based on some ideas we developed over the years. And we basically set out to build the best tool for winning that we could. And that meant a boat that had to be fast and easy. It means easy to put together, easy to tune, and easy to sail. So that you can just go out and do all the practicing that we've been talking about and get really good and win races.
And so that's brought you to your new boat, this the Windflyer, which looks like it's you know, obviously you've brought in, you know, this is what Benoit here in his Exocet, and you've sort of just taken some ideas and brought out, you know, developed your new product.
Let me just put in a couple of words about why we called it the Windflyer. It's the idea was just to call it something that, when they ask you, what are you sailing? And you say a Windflyer, it kind of gives a picture of what a moth is. Because, you know, apart from us who are mothies, people outside the class don't necessarily fully understand what a moth is. And it's something that flies in the wind at the end of the day. And I think that really gets the image across. And I think that's important, to just attract new people to the class, is also what we'd like to do.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Barbarossa is the manufacturer.
Barbarossa is well, Tristan, who's the designer and the builder. he's got a red beard. So I said, well, why don't you call it Barbarossa, which means red beard?
Okay.
He was also some emperor way back in history, but that doesn't really matter. It stands for the red beard.
Okay, got you. That all makes sense then. All right, well, talk us through these slides, Gio, and how you've got to where you've got to.
Sure. So, well, as we all know, we've all been working on improving aero, and one of the first ideas was to do this Z boom to be able to have a deck sweeping main and have it set nicely without going into the traditional boom and having to distort the shape. But what you can see here is that basically it's pretty hard with a conventional Vang to run the Z boom properly, and you end up with a lot of structural issues and a lot of compression on the boom. So the first thing we did was we tested track for the Vang to see how that would work, and
So that was successful, was it?
Yeah, it worked. It was absolutely successful. Yeah.
Yeah, I know a lot of people have sort of tried it over the times. I remember Mike Lennon had one on the back of his boat at one stage, more of like a catamaran style. But a lot of people have definitely discussed the curved Vang, curved track, and the boom went in and out easily, no problem.
The boom goes in and out very easily. It's no problem at all. I mean, that obviously means you have to do a complex geometry on the track. It can't just be flat.
Yeah.
So, but that's all been known, and it's all been done on boats since always. So that's nothing new.
Yeah.
What is new is basically, rather than going out and buying a Harken track and bolting it onto the boat, which is very heavy, the track is part of the structure of the crossbeam, and it's a full carbon track, and it just has a little car with roller bearings running it.
All right. So the track you've got in your deck fairing here is a carbon track.
Yeah, which is, by the way, it's what DNA is using on the A-class cat as well. So it's
Okay.
It's proven, it works. It's reliable.
Got you. So tell us what we've got here. This is obviously the boat, and
the boat, and what's quite exceptional that you can see here is how flat the crossbeam is, and what a perfect end plate it is for the rig. You've got this boom there lying on top of it, and that obviously comes pretty much all the way down to the crossbeam, the end plate.
Yeah. I mean, in recent years, people have been lifting their outer wing bar higher and higher for the righty moment game when the boat's heeled.
Yes.
You've obviously put aero ahead of this.
Oh well, no. If you later on in the slideshow, there's maybe a slide where you see the boat from the back, and you actually see that the angle of the wing bars is quite steep.
Okay.
It's quite similar to the raised wing bar that you have on an Exocet at the end of the day. So the cross beams just is actually on top of that. You see that the trampolines come in. You see in this slide that the trampolines come in below the cross beam. So you have
Got you.
Slot.
So you think wing bar height is pretty similar to most boats out there?
Yeah, it's similar to the new generation with high wing bars.
Yeah.
It's definitely yeah.
Fine. So what you'd say this is a sort of a traditional boat, but with this hard deck on top, which is taking the Vang.
Yeah, it's interesting structurally as well, because this way you basically have the trampolines are acting as check stays. They're pulling down as opposed to pulling an axis with the crossbeam like they are in conventional boats. So the whole structure is very tight and all held together by the tramps and the tension in the tramps as well. So it all works together very well and forms a pretty stiff platform.
Got you.
Yeah, here you see the sail up, and you see how low the boom comes to the deck, and obviously here the Vang isn't even on yet. So one thing we have on these boats is we have adjustable forestay, adjustable vang, so you can play with that and always get the boom on deck.
So out of these two lines here, this is obviously the boat on the side. This red line's the vang, is it? Or no, that's the main sheet going in. Here's the vang here.
That's the main sheet. The vang is there.
So literally the vang will work as a single line going vertically down to the track.
Yes, exactly. And then you have a 20-to-1 purchase inside the boom, which is plenty. Which is plenty because it's a much more efficient vang than you have on a conventional boat. So it's very powerful. Now what you see there is you see the red rope is the main sheet going to the boom, and the other one is the main sheet that goes to your hand basically.
Yeah.
And the purchases for the main sheet are below decks, so it's perfectly clean. There's no bridle, there's no blocks above deck, nothing to get into the airstream.
Got you. It looks very clean, the whole thing. It's you've clearly put a lot of thought into the whole thing.
Yeah, obviously, basically going for a revolutionary concept like this, then it becomes very, very important to work on all the details and make sure that everything works and that the boat is easy to manage and that you have access to the ropes, because now we've got all the ropes. Everything is streamlined. All the ropes are inside the boat, and you want to be able to reach them and adjust anything or check things out, make sure everything's fine. And so we worked very hard on that. What you're seeing here is just an inspection port that looks at the
that area there, can that fill up with water, that area, or it doesn't matter?
Well, it can't. It will fill and drain basically. So
Got you.
It's never really. That's not a problem.
Yeah. So that when you capsize, that may fill, but then it will just rush out into the boat when you right the boat.
Exactly. Yeah.
Got you. And that's where the cleats go, in that little recess there, is it?
Got
that on.
Yes, the cleats go into the recess. These are just some details of all the ropes and all the special fair leads that have been made. Make sure everything's nice and clean.
Oh, this is the money shot here.
These are two cross beams, one on top of the other, and you can see all the detailing inside to make sure that all the ropes are led cleanly through this part, and that there's no friction and everything runs great. There's a lot of work, a lot of design work to make that all work perfectly.
It looks so your outer wing bar will essentially sit on the end of this, where these
exactly your outer wing bar slots into there.
Got you. So that's two boats there. That's not one boat. That's two boats.
No, that's for two boats. Yeah.
Yeah. Got you. And this is the shear web essentially to take the shroud load.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. Got you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Those are cleats.
Yeah, the cleats. It's just to show the detail. If you've got the next slide, those are little titanium back plates on the back of all the cleats. It's again just attention to detail. And this is the vang car. That's three vang cars.
Got you. And so that's a custom carbon track integrated. Let's just go back here. So the carbon track's integrated in here somewhere.
Yeah, that's right. It's part of the track.
How are you building that in? That's when that's in two pieces. It's in there.
I don't know exactly how it's assembled, to be honest.
Okay, fair enough.
You have to ask Tristan exactly how it's, but basically, yeah.
I'm guessing that string there has got those cars on the end of it at the moment, so they're in there maybe.
Yeah, this is just one car. There you saw three cars for three different boats. One car's enough for one boat.
Yeah, fine. Okay. So one of those little cars in your front wing on that track there.
Yeah, it works. Again, that's part of the development work. Originally, we had a smaller car with just 4 bearings instead of 6, and that wasn't enough. So we upgraded the part, redid it a couple times.
Yeah. I'll come back to those one photos. Just tell us quickly, Gio, where are you building this boat?
This boat's being built in Thailand. Tristan, who's the man with the beard, he's the designer and the builder, and he basically moved out there and set up a little factory because we just wanted to have really good quality, and we realized we'd need to train our own people and have our own tools. And yeah, we even got a great big autoclave, so we can stick parts and even the entire hull into the autoclave. And
So what are we seeing here then on this left-hand side? This is...
So on the left-hand side, that's the fairing between the crossbeam and the hull. And that's inside there is where the main sheet system goes, all the blocks. And obviously you've got the ride height, the push rod going to the centerboard, to the main foil. Yeah, you see that. Yeah, exactly. You're pointing at it right now. And yeah, that's basically, you can put anything you like in there.
Yeah, right. Oh, I see. So yeah, so it is raised up.
Exactly.
The front wing bar is raised off essentially what would be the conventional shear line through here, and exactly. There's tramps going in down here.
Tramp slots in down there. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, got you. And these floats the outer part of the wing, or is it just?
Yeah, they are floats. They are floats. Yes.
Okay.
They have some buoyancy.
So you put a bag in there, or they're sealed?
They're sealed.
Got you.
Yeah.
Got you. And Tristan designed the hull shape, did he?
Yeah, Tristan designed the hull shape. Yeah, he's a very good hull designer.
Yeah, I mean, it is different. It's, you know, obviously there's that chine there, which I wouldn't say it's been a huge amount, but it's just this bulbous hull forward, which I presume is designed for you know, break out of the water.
Well, yeah, the hull has much more volume forward than most Moth hulls, and that's really for a couple of reasons. One, we think aerodynamically it's better. When you saw the pictures of the Mule, it didn't have any fairings at the end of the wing bars, but obviously you really want a very clean exit. So you want a sharp tail, and you want some volume up front from an aerodynamic point of view. And also, we figured there's not much point in making a hull that's designed for planing at high speeds, because as soon as you're over 7-8 knots, you're flying anyways. So this is a very good hull at lower speeds. It's got a lot of rockers, so it maneuvers well. The entry at the front is made so that if you come down, you basically bounce back up. It's very hard to pitch pole with this hull, basically. So
okay.
It's pretty beginner friendly. From that
sure, plenty of people will manage. And I see no king post. That's presumably because you've got the curved track van, so yeah, where your gooseneck sits doesn't matter.
Yeah, there's no king post at all. No.
Yeah. Oh, this is interesting.
This is just for adjusting your AOA.
So here we've got a fine adjustment of the rake of your vertical.
Yes.
So this isn't the ride height adjuster for adjusting the push rod length. No, this is for essentially adjusting the rake of the vertical, moving the head of the foil fore and aft on a day-to-day basis.
Well, if you want to, or just to set it once and leave it.
Yeah.
That's really up to you, but you know, rather than having to go and re-drill a hole or put a shim in your foil because you're paranoid about your AOA not being right, you can just give that a twirl. It takes all of 3 seconds, and you can go and test it and see if you're happy.
No, I think that's a super nice feature.
Yeah, it's something I always found very annoying whenever you wanted to play with your angle of attack. You would take hours of bimbling to change it. That's just easy.
Okay, so I think now we're going to start looking at the front of the boat, Gio, and this bowsprit, which isn't a bowsprit. At first glance, it is a bowsprit.
Yeah.
But when you actually dig into it, it isn't a bowsprit at all. So talk us through it.
Yeah, so okay, this is a great slide because it shows what it does. So I'd been thinking for years about, how could we get a wand that basically always stays out in front so that you always have good pitch response no matter what height the boat is flying at. And it just came to me that I'd been seeing this thing throughout my whole life. Basically, not on top of a tram that goes to get the electricity, the pantograph, it just goes straight up and down. And so the idea with this wand is that it's articulated. It's got 4 legs. So, and the purple line here is the path the wand travels in. So as opposed to the traditional wand, which performs an arc, this one basically goes almost straight up and down.
So your wand's acting vertically rather than curving around.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it goes back a little bit, but very little. So it's when you're sailing, it's in front of where a conventional wand would be.
Okay.
But
it's running alongside the bow rather than 500 millimeters in front of the bow, like a Mach 2 or an XSR.
Well, the thing is, it sticks out in front of the boat when you're sailing. So it actually, it's designed basically so at maximum, when the boat's at maximum height, it's almost 500 in front of the boat.
Oh, is it? Got you. So it's quite along, the whole thing.
Yeah.
And so what's the advantage of this over a conventional bowsprit wand arrangement?
Well, first, it's a little bit simpler because you don't have the telescopic wand, so you only have 2 controls on it, the ride height and the gearing.
Yeah.
You don't have the 3rd dimension to play with.
So what would you do then for adjusting your ride height?
You just roll down your ride height.
You just use the ride height. You don't use one length.
Yeah. And then the other advantage is, like I said, it's further out in front, so it's like having a bit longer.
Yeah.
And finally, this is probably a huge advantage for beginners, is that if you're sailing like a foot or even 2 feet too low with a normal system, you're going to wipe out. Whereas with this, you've got really good control, even if you're just completely chickening out on a windy downwind.
Okay. Yeah, got you. I mean, I've seen a few people using them in Italy. Actually, I don't know if that was the prototypes of this.
Yeah, we've been developing it for a while, and Fabian has been sailing for a while, and we went through several iterations and kept making it stronger and better. And yeah, another advantage which I didn't mention is the fact that the paddle's angle stays constant. So that right now on a conventional wand, when your paddle's forward, it's basically slapping into the waves. Whereas this, the angle of the paddle stays at whatever angle you want to set it at.
Yeah,
so
got you.
If you think your optimal angle is 45 degrees, you set it at that, and that's where it stays.
I know Fabian always said it was good, and it does look complicated, but probably once, I guess, a bowsprit and a traditional one look complicated, but once you're into it, and I think the paddle's working in the same part of the water all the time, rather than moving fore and aft, which keeps that gearing situation better, and also if you do have a cam system, you're always working in the same part of the cam, so to speak.
Well, Rob, I think designing it and developing it was really complicated. On the other hand, using it and sailing with it is pretty simple. So, It was a lot of
Yes.
work to work out all the details.
Yeah, I can see a lot of curved carbon plates here and that sort of thing, and lots of well, a few pin joints. But I guess once they're all ironed out, it comes good.
Well, this is the latest version of it, and the purpose of this version is to make it more streamlined, more aerodynamic.
And what about tack to tack then? So I see it's you know, off on the side of the boat here.
Well,
Yeah.
when you talk about offset, it looks like it's got a lot of offset. But actually, if you look at where the paddle's in the water, it's got no more offset than a conventional one.
Okay.
And
Okay.
potentially, I mean, if you see, there's a piece that's offsetting it off to the side, which if we didn't want, wouldn't be there, and it would be closer to center line. But if you do that, it's very, very slow. So moral of the story is, don't put your paddle in the middle.
No, for sure, and you just got to deal with the offset, tack to tack, as everybody does, whether that with one length or ride height adjuster. All right, well, I guess coming to it, you know, what everyone sort of says, it's about the foils and not so much about the boat. Obviously, aero's key, and you're addressing the aero points with your boat. Foils, how have you got to where you've got to with foils?
So also the foil program's been going on for quite a while. Fabian basically sailed the entire last season with the foils, and a few more guys also have been using the foils. And we were quite happy with the shape and not entirely happy with how we constructed the prototypes. So we've gone to better construction methods. But we're quite happy with the foils. The big foil has more or less the area of the large Maguire, and the small foil has a little bit less. They're pretty forgiving foils. They're not super thin, which makes them, I think, very good for waves, and just more forgiving and gives them a wider groove. And they're still pretty fast.
Yeah, what's the Lanufi foil? Is that the Manta foil?
Which one? The Lanufi foil was a foil designed by Giorgio Provinciali that was used at the Malcesine Worlds by Scott Babbage, I think.
Okay.
It's a small big foil.
Yeah. Okay. So that's a low area, is it, or something? Yeah. I see. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
It was. I mean, I think it was pretty good in flat water.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and you were telling me yesterday, which foil? You've got 3 foils here. Obviously, the rule's 2 foils. So
we've got the big and the small right now.
The big and the small, and the medium is to come, maybe.
The medium is to come in. Well, I mean, we'll see. We'll play around. We'll come out with, our plan is to keep trying new foils and also building some venue specific foils.
Yeah. And what's this, an anhedral rudder?
Yeah, that's the rudder, horizontal beam limit.
You just got one rudder, do you, or you got multiple?
No, we've actually got 3 sizes, but we think only the smaller 2 are going to be used.
Got you. So this is main foil, is it? Yeah.
Yes, that's the large main foil. Yes.
And I see push rod quite centrally in the.
Yeah. So we're a little bit different than other foils in that we have a split flap with with the bulb in the middle, and we've moved the foil forward with respect to the vertical. So, and one advantage of that, of course, is that we're running the push rod through the fat part of the foil.
Yeah, and so the tab is split here and slides up and down the side of the bulb.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, got you. Okay, and that you can pull the horizontal out of that bulb, can you, and change it, or how does the changeover work?
No. You've got the metal part is bonded to the carbon, so that all comes off. You put a new one in.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's the rudder.
Yeah, so similar bulb arrangement to the Exocet.
Yes, except the bulb isn't cylindrical, it's shaped.
Okay. Yeah, so that all comes apart at the bottom quite easily, presumably.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
And we
yeah, got it.
make the top of the rudder a little fatter so you can scull into the
What where have you gone with length of foils?
What's this?
Verticals. How long are your verticals? What's your theory there, and where are you at?
Our foils are basically standard length, so they're not
Yeah.
they're not longer. And yeah, I think there are some disadvantages to longer foils. So we'll just keep working with this. But you know, if we see that everybody wants long foils, we can build longer foils. But honestly, I think longer foils make it harder to sail in waves. And you are getting more writing moment, but you're also getting more heeling moment because you're putting the rig higher up in the air. So, so it only really pays off at very high angles of windward heel. Probably.
Yeah, I mean, I think the debate on long foils is out there for a while, yeah. And you know, the maths on it all, and obviously, as you say, higher centre of effort, but more writing moment when heeled. And we'll need a scientist to tell us the heel angles and when it actually kicks in.
Well, if you do them, it all depends, of course, of where your center of effort is on your sail, which is hard to calculate because you've got twist happening and you know, you're depowering the top of your sail. So, but if you do the math, I think the break-even point is maybe 23, 24 degrees of windward heel. And I don't see too many people sailing much above that angle of windward heel. So I'm pretty skeptical. I actually have another theory about why long foils might be fast. You're just higher up and into a slightly stronger breeze. I mean, we know how sensitive the moth is to a little bit of extra pressure. So who knows?
Yeah. In my head, I always had 27 degrees of heel, and then the long foil gets much better very, very quickly.
Yes.
And at 30 degrees of heel, it's significantly better. Downwind, in theory, always less rising moment. But you know, there's so many factors going on, as you say, Gio, that I don't think you can just you know, pull one thing. All right, just look at it. So there's your autoclave there on the right, which you own yourself.
Yeah, it's a big autoclave. It'll make some nice light, crisp boats. So we're looking forward to using it. Yes.
And so you'll put all the components in there, cook them all.
Yeah. Well, in the pre-production series boats, which you're seeing in the pictures, they've got plenty of parts that are made in the autoclave, but the hull itself hasn't been made in the autoclave. But now that we have this bigger autoclave, we can make the whole boat.
I guess that then brings us to the question of weight. Where are you weight-wise? Are you comfortable, or? We're
quite comfortable. Yeah. We're getting very close to Exocet weight. So, and that's our benchmark, really.
Yeah, I mean, looking from the front here of the boat, it looks more voluminous, as you said, than a standard boat.
Yeah,
and, but you know, there's obviously weight associated with this aero platform, but then there's also the gain associated with the aero.
If you look at the stern, it looks really skinny, though.
So. Yeah. And how's that been for tacking, low riding tacking, and things like that? You've got enough volume back there.
Yeah, it works really well. Yeah.
Okay.
It's fine.
And so you're building them down in Thailand. And people can buy them. What's the story?
Yes, people can buy them. They just have to get in touch with me, and we can talk about it. Yeah, we're now starting to build at the rate of about every month and a half or so, and we're aiming to having 2 boats a month coming in.
Got you. I mean, this is a pretty cool looking boat, I have to say, especially from this angle here. What when's there going to be? Presumably, obviously, Corona's changing things, but you're planning on having some in Europe for this summer, say in Garda or something.
Definitely. We're having. We should be getting a couple of proper boats delivered to our customers in May, actually. Yeah. So unless they lock us down even more, they're talking about doing foiling week in July. Let's hope that we can get there. They're talking about also doing the German nationals at the beginning of July. Let's hope we're allowed to go.
Got you. And how much does it cost you?
Well, we're pretty, obviously the price depends on whether you get, how many sets of foils you get, whether you get that beautiful autoclaved Z-boom that we've developed. But I can tell you that we're pretty competitive.
You talk about the Z-boom, and you need the Z-boom presumably for the boat or not?
If you really want to, I suppose you could use a conventional boom, but I wouldn't see the point of that.
Yeah.
I mean, the Z-boom is a little bit heavier, but the arrow in the bottom of the sail is a lot nicer. I mean, you really feel a lot of power coming from the rig that.
Yeah. But you could use a conventional boom and put the standard sail on it, standard DSX sail or similar.
Yeah, but you can put a standard sail also on the Z-boom.
Yeah.
I mean, actually, we're looking at the prototype sails that we developed with you guys, and I think that they work pretty well. So.
Yeah. And these rear wing bars are carbon, are they, or aluminium, or is this just it's hard to tell from here?
Yeah.
They're carbon, presumably.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Any fairings going on the back there of those rear wing bars?
Definitely. It's actually the exit that needs to be sharp.
Yeah.
For a good arrow, you want a blunt entry and a sharp exit.
Yeah, got you. So still a bit of work to do, but certainly by the end of the year, she's going to be sweet.
Yeah. I mean, those parts exist. They just
not on.
Yeah, they're just not on.
And the big question: it goes in a box of some description.
It goes, yeah. It packs into two boxes because there's a box for the crossbeam and a box for the hull.
Got you.
And what's kind of cool is you could if you wanted to pack the assembled foils into the box for the crossbeam.
Got you. So every two boxes and everything's in one piece.
Yeah, if you want. Although, I mean, the foils can definitely be taken apart, but if you want, you can leave them assembled.
How long does it take to put the boat together?
Well, the first time it took a couple of weeks on the mule.
Okay, don't say that.
But after the fifth time I've done it, it took like a couple of hours. So
okay.
It's quite fast. It's very. Yeah. And that was still the mule, which didn't have all the nice sheave boxes and everything for all the ropes. So I think it's going to be pretty fast.
Yeah, good. Well, Gio, I look forward to seeing the boat sailing, and hopefully you get some over to Europe shortly, and we can witness its potential. I'm sure it looks very good. I think all the projects you've done before, the build quality looks amazing. It certainly looks pretty radical, and hopefully we'll see some really good performance out of it. So thank you for joining us, Gio. Thank you for joining us, Tom Burton. Thank you for joining us, everybody listening from around the world. And we'll catch up next time. Thanks very much.
See you, Rob.
Goodbye.
Bye.